Hi, my name is Kirsten, and welcome to my factoring tutorial where we'll go over the basics of factoring with the AC method. So all of these are going to be problems where actually let me go ahead and switch this color out, a little bit of a differentiating one, where A equals 1. And what I mean by that is all of these trinomials have their own little special form where we're going to have A, B, and C. And A, B, and C are all coefficients of each term in the equation. And what that means is the very first number right in front of your variable is going to be your coefficient. So in A, we have an imaginary 1, hence our A equals 1 problem right here. If you look at all these equations on the screen, all of them just have an x with nothing in front of it. There's an imaginary 1 there because 1 times anything is itself. B is 7, and C is 12. Okay, A is 1, B is 7, C, whoops, that's just another C. C is 12. Okay, that being said, that's the first step. Identify your A, B, and C. Step 2 is to take A times C. Okay, so A times C is going to be 1 times 12. 1 times 12 equals 12. The beauty of these types of questions with the A equals 1 is that you can really just take your C and use that. So we're going to use 12 as the number that we're going to find factors for. So what I mean by that is we're going to take factors of 12 and we want the factors of 12, or C in this case, to add to B. So what's B? 7. So we want factors of 12 that add to 7. With small numbers, I like to just go ahead and start my factor tree with 1. So 1 times what equals 12? 1 times 12 equals 12. Now, is there any way that we can change this so that 1 plus 12 equals 7? Well, the only option to try would be negative 12 times negative 1. Because a negative times a negative equals a positive, so negative 1 times negative 12 still equals positive 12. But does this in any way add to 7? Negative 1 plus negative 12, or negative 1 minus 12, will not equal 7, and 1 plus 12 will also not equal 7. So we can just move on. 2 and 6. Well, 2 times 6 equals 12, and if we made them negative, that would also equal 12, but neither of those options are going to add to 7. So let's keep going. 3 times what equals 12? Well, 3 times 4 equals 12. Check. What about 3 plus 4? 3 plus 4 does indeed equal 7. And what we can do here is just throw your signs right in front. We know that that was positive to get both of those answers, and then put an x in front. X plus 3, x plus 4. And I'll kind of show you, see this plus 3 came right here, we put an x in front, and this plus 4 came right here. All right, so our factors of the equation x squared plus 7x plus 12 is x plus 3 and x plus 4. And that's your very final answer for that piece of it. Next problem, problem 2, x squared minus 11x minus 28. All right, first step, same thing. A, B, C. Let's identify them. A is 1. We have an imaginary 1 right there. B is negative 11. Please always remember to bring this sign down. It is so important. And negative 28. I think actually this is actually meant to be positive 28 for this problem. So I'm going to go ahead and just write that back in. There we go. Now we're back on track. Okay, and positive 28. All right, so what's our next step? We need to do A times C. 1 times 28 equals 28. And now we can do factor trees. We want our factor tree, we want to find two factors that multiply to 28, multiply to AC, and add to what number? To negative 11, add to our B value. Okay, so 28, let's go ahead. We can already kind of use common sense, just 1 and 28. There's no way that 1 plus 28 in any form or fashion is going to equal negative 11, right? Of course, the multiplication works, but the addition will not. So, nope. What about 2 times what equals 28? 2 times 14 equals 28. Is there any way that to plus 14 will ever equal negative 11? Well, the only other option to try is making these both negative, right? Because it has to multiply to a positive number. And negative 2 minus 14 does not equal negative 11. So we can just get rid of that. 28 divided by 3. So 3 times what equals 28? Nothing. It's not divisible by 3. Keep going. 4. 4 times what equals 28? 4 times 7 equals 28, right? Okay, we can go ahead and check that off. That's good. What about 4 plus 7? That equals what? 4 plus 7 equals positive 11. So would that work? Not quite. We want it to equal negative 11. That is really important. But what's another way that we can manipulate these numbers so they still multiply to 28? Make them both negative. Negative 4 times negative 7 still equals positive 28. So still checked. What about negative 4 plus negative 7? So negative 4 plus negative 7, same thing as negative 4 minus 7 equals negative 11. Correct. And what do we do now? This is the easy part. X minus 4 and parentheses x minus 7. Right? We're just going to bring it here, put an x in front. So our factors for x squared minus 11x plus 28 is x minus 4 and x minus 7. Let's move on to question 3. X squared plus 2x minus 15. You need A, B, C. First step, identify A, B, and C. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals negative 15. Okay, so second step, A times C. So 1 times negative 15 equals negative 15. We're going to make a little factor tree for negative 15. We want factors that multiply to negative 15 and add to what? Positive 2. Okay? 1 and negative 15. Well, 1 times negative 15 does equal negative 15. Also, negative 1 times positive 15 equals negative 15. But does that in any way add to positive 2? No, not going to happen. Okay, 2 times what is negative 15? Nothing. We're only working with whole numbers. We don't want decimals or anything like that. Okay, 3 times what equals negative 15? 3 times negative 5 equals negative 15, or negative 3 times positive 5. So these are both potential options that multiply to negative 15. But do either of these options add to negative 2? Well, let's start with, just for the sake of showing this, let's start with negative 3 plus 5. Or actually, take it back. Let's start with 3 plus negative 5. Okay, so that's the same as 3 minus 5. And that means you're starting over at 3, and you're taking 5 away. So you're going to go this way in the number line, backwards. That'll bring you into the negative territory, okay? That equals negative 2. So do positive 3, negative 5 work? Well, 3 times negative 5 equals negative 15, but 3 plus negative 5 equals negative 2. But we want it to equal positive 2, so this was incorrect. Okay, so x. So none of these work, but we know so far negative 3 times 5 is negative 15, and negative 3 plus 5 equals what? Positive 2. Good, you can always throw that in your calculator, and that should help. So now we'll go ahead and write our answer. X minus 3 and x plus 5. So those are your factors for x squared plus 2x minus 15. All I did here again was just attach it. Okay, let's go to our last problem. Go ahead and move this so it has a little more space. All right. Okay, so question 4, we have x squared minus 2x minus 35. And we're going to start with our first step, A, B, C. All right, so first identify your coefficients. A equals 1, B equals negative 2, C equals negative 35. Remember, negative signs are very important. Step 2, a times c, which in this case is 1 times negative 35, equals negative 35. Factor tree, right? So now we want factors that multiply to negative 35 and add to what? Add to b, which in this case is negative 2. So let's start with 1 and negative 35, right? Same thing with negative 35 and positive 1. Or, my bad, I meant to switch the signs. Positive 35 and negative 1. That's also another way to do it. However, neither of these options are going to add to negative 2, so let's just keep going. 2 times what is negative 35? Nothing, because we're only working with whole numbers. We don't want decimals or anything. So 3 times what equals negative 35? Nothing. 4 times what equals negative 35? Nothing. Now 5 times what equals negative 35? 5 times negative 7 equals negative 35. We can also reverse the signs. That positive 7 times negative 5 equals negative 35. So now that we know both of these are options for the multiplication, we have to figure out which one of them adds to what? To negative 2. Let's just test both. 5 plus negative 7, same thing as 5 minus 7 equals negative 2. So right there we know, check. Check. This satisfies both rules. For the sake of explanation, let's double check 7 and negative 5. 7 times negative 5 equals negative 35. But what is 7 plus negative 5? Same thing as positive 7 minus 5 equals positive 2. So that's not what we wanted. We wanted negative 2. So just get rid of that. Put a little x right here. And therefore, we know these are, oopsies. We know these are the correct factors. So we can go ahead and add the x plus 5, because that's a positive 5, and x minus 7. This is the plus 5 and minus 7. You just add the x in front. That's the great part about these, where a equals 1. So I hope this made a bit of sense. These are how you do questions where a equals 1 when you want a factor. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll answer as soon as I can. And thank you so much for watching.